I'm Sean Fennessey, and this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about Moana and Hot Frosty, two very different climates in the vast ecological crisis known as movies in 2024. And I'm also very proud to have the beautiful father and daughter of the Ringer music podcast experience here on the show. We've got the host of 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s, Rob Harvilla, returning, and for her first appearance ever on The Big Picture, the host of Bandsplain, Yasi Salek. Hi, guys.
You're welcome, honestly.
What can I say except you're welcome? I'm so thrilled to be here for Yasi's debut. This is a historic occasion. This has Yalta energy, what's happening right now.
I'm so thrilled to be here to talk about Moana too.
A gift.
I
genuinely, well, we'll get to Moana too, and why you're here, Yasi. But before we do, you guys saw the Yacht Rock movie?
Yes.
We did.
What'd you think of that movie?
Rob, do you want to go first?
I thought it was phenomenal with the caveats that I this is a Spotify operation.
Rob, you
but
don't have to say that. Come on.
Okay.
You're an objective
all right.
critic and everyone knows it.
I'm trying. I am very objective. And the Steely Dan, the Steely Dan moment in this movie at the end of this movie is one of the loveliest and most hilarious things I've seen in a music documentary in some time. And so I had a blast. Just majestic hair, just the plumage in this movie alone, just very aspirational for me personally. I thought it was fantastic. I really did. I dadded the hell out, man.
Your hair is kind of
fabulous
pluming today, so
it really is.
appropriate.
I am recovering from the worst haircut I have ever received as an adult. I came home and my wife yelped. It was horrifying. I had to do like public events with the worst haircut I've ever had as an adult. And so now this is it growing out and it's asymmetrical. It's like,
good.
It's like punk rock.
Yeah. You're like a young Steve Lukather from Toto.
There is no greater compliment you could pay me. I was going to say a flock of seagulls, but I greatly prefer Steve Lukather. Thank you. I'm working on it.
Yasi, what's your story? You hate Steely Dan?
I don't hate anybody, Sean. My heart is pure, and
fish. You hate
that
fish.
is not that's not an emotion that I contain. I do have like a scotch of PTSD, as you know. The first episode of Bandsplain ever was Steely Dan, and we did have to record it like 7 different times to get it right. And is it my cup of tea? No. So I was going into the viewing of this documentary made by my benevolent employers, I was a little stealing myself, if you'll allow it. And I had a great time against all odds. Even me, I had the best time. I didn't know Toto went so hard, babe. That was my main takeaway. I was like, Toto goes so hard.
That is really the big revelation. I actually said that to Garrett. I was like, Toto, who knew?
Sold the
members
show,
of that band
honestly.
playing on 5,000 records through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Sweet Lord.
Good energy, questionable music video, just like it had everything that you would ever want. I really enjoyed myself. And I love spaces where women are not welcome. So
like
that also I
like
found
music
delightful.
podcasting, for example.
Like music podcasting, Yacht Rock. Yeah. You asked me to come here.
I appreciate that, Prov, the level of cosign from both of you. This is an in-house project, but it is a film that I would say is in the spirit of the missions that you guys have had, excavating and spelunking your way through music history so expertly. We're not going to talk about music right off the bat here. The original plan for this episode, well, I'll tell you. Rob and I have had some conversations as grown men with families about animated films made for children over the years on the pod. Amanda's joined us a couple times for those conversations. They're always heartful, sincere, deep, maybe a little creepy, but ultimately well-meaning. Figured, why not run it back? Moana 2, one of the signature Disney movies of the 21st century, very highly anticipated film. And the early word started trickling out on the movie. Moana 2, this was supposed to be a TV show. Now it's a movie. Is this movie going to be good? Maybe it's not going to be good. It's going to make a lot of money, but do the listeners of Big Picture really care about this movie? I'm not sure. Then I started thinking, how do we spice up the dad conversation? What agent of change can we bring into this mix? And it dawned on me that Yasi, we were going to talk about The Crow this year on the pod.
That's right.
You love the original Crow film.
I do.
And that soundtrack is, I think, very meaningful, honestly, for the three of us, a bunch of 90s kids. And we had high hopes for the Crow remake, reimagining with Bill Skarsgård. That movie stunk. so we didn't even devote an episode to it. I think I spent 4 minutes on it on one episode in August. And you were traveling the world at that time, so you couldn't join us. And so I figured, why not join us for Moana 2? Then saw Moana 2, and I was like, Moana 2 ain't it. This is not enough for a full convo. And I had noticed that a little film had been dominating film discourse by the name of Hot Frosty. And I sent you guys a note, and I said, I need you both to watch Hot Frosty tonight if you have the time. This was like 7:15 p.m. Rob's time, and Rob's
9.
9?
Yeah.
9 p.m.
It's closer to 9. I was walking out of the theater with my children, having watched Moana 2.
Same, actually. It wasn't 9 p.m., but no
you
children.
walked out of the theater with Rob's children, Yasi?
I did. Kidnapping. I did walk out of the theater with children, if you believe it.
Man, there were
Not
so many
mine,
children
but-
at my screening. Holy Lord.
Yeah.
Did you get any weird looks at the theater?
I didn't go alone. I'm
Okay.
because I'm a journalist.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to bring children with me to understand how this
Okay.
is landing for the
Sure.
target audience. So I asked my friend who has multiple children, can we bring some of those? Pick one, I don't care.
Yeah.
And
You seem like such a loving aunt figure in their life.
actually, I'm very popular with these children, and I do love them deeply. But yes, she brought 2. One, my love Leo, who's between 7 and 8, and the littler one, Georgia, who I think is about 3 or 4. She's a little. There was like a literal newborn next to us. I do actually really enjoy the chaos. I guess I'm not familiar with it because you are not going to catch me again in a Disney movie film in the theater day it comes out, but who cares, right? It's like kids are screaming, kids are yelling, kids are dancing. It's kind of, that part was awesome. and like no one's shushing. You can't shush. It's a movie for children. They're not.
Sounds
be
like you had a
expected.
more fun theater going experience than I had, Yasi.
I had
honestly.
some drinks. I had some drinks also. So
Yeah, well, it seems like you both partook last night, and now I regret not having done that because I sent you this note after seeing the movie to watch Hot
Yeah.
Frosty. Rob,
right.
shout out to you. At 9 p.m., you went home and watched it.
I know. Impressive.
I just
I'm a
learned
professional.
you really are. Yasi ID'd as a journalist. I'm not sure if you guys are journalists anymore, if I'm being totally honest with you, but you
that's
are
fine.
committed to the cause of cinema. And
I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
that's what
Very
I've been saying
different.
on the show recently. And it's
Sure.
meant to be arch, but it's actually not,
It's
unfortunately.
hurtful is what it is. It's hurtful. Sean, I think it was like literally a Christmas miracle that you sent that message because I was not feeling good leaving the theater post chicken fingers and some
Ooh.
alcohol. And then I got the message and I was like, oh my God, Hot Frosty. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to watch this film. And I got home and it was like the most beautiful palate cleanser. Like I went to bed happy.
So for anyone who is not familiar with the phenomenon that is Hot Frosty, it's a new movie that you can watch on Netflix. It is another in a long line of somewhat cheaply made, certainly absurd holiday fairy tale style stories that are run out over the course of the final 8 weeks of the year across streaming services. Hallmark is probably best known for these films that are often just typical romances. But over the years, Netflix has really stepped in and been really cranking these things out. They started out a little bit more high concept and high budget. The Kurt Russell Santa Claus film, for example, that was like
Sure.
kind of close to a real movie.
Right.
Hot Frosty, which is directed by Jerry Ciccaridi, who is one of my favorite filmmakers, and is written by
Canadian.
Russell Hanlon.
He's Canadian.
He's
Is he
Canadian. Great. Well,
Yeah.
that explains it. Is quite a fascinating document. It's a movie about a widow who counters her loneliness with a magical snowman who is brought to life. And when he comes to life, it becomes clear that he is fucking hot. He's a very handsome fellow, and he's a fellow who is very eager to spend time with this young widow. This movie is completely deranged. Rob, what did you think of Hot Frosty?
I don't want to be crude, but I thought she was going to fuck the snowman.
Yeah.
I was told she was going to fuck the snowman. I told my wife she was going to fuck the snowman, and that is why she agreed to watch it. And when it became clear that she was not going to fuck the snowman, my wife went on her phone, right? So I felt like, why are you going to show me something if I can't have it? As I believe Kevin Garnett once said, right? So I enjoyed this movie immensely. I enjoyed it a great deal more than Moana 2. I think you will all agree.
Yeah.
But I was fundamentally like, what are we doing here if you're not going to fuck the snowman?
I'm so
That would
sorry.
be my first note.
You were expecting to like see snowman whole. Is that what you're saying? Like
that is not what I said.
I wanted
thought
full ice penetration.
full penetration.
That is what I wanted. Yes. Yeah. Just
on the Netflix Christmas film.
I'm not asking for porn necessarily, but I am asking for some. I was
How
promised
many
some
drinks did you have
spiciness.
at Moana 2?
I had 0 drinks at Moana 2.
Okay.
I had 2 gin and tonics during Hot
course,
Frosty, and I considered an unprecedented third gin and tonic. I cannot recall the last time I had 3. I was curious what would happen and how that would affect my perception of this movie. I don't know if she had fucked a snowman, if that would have made me more likely or less likely to drink the third gin and tonic. I just wanted I wanted a hint of spiciness, right? I wanted implied fucking of the snowman.
Okay.
You know?
One, Yasi, I'm very eager for your thoughts about this film. 2, I do, Rob, when you talk about having 2 and yearning for a third, but resisting a third gin and tonic, I feel so close to you. Like, it's remarkable. I've been talking about how much less I drink now these days, but sometimes you do need it. I was fearing, I have a full day with my beautiful daughter today as soon as we finish recording. And so, because my wife is at home cooking a lovely Thanksgiving dinner. And so
As
the
it should
idea,
be.
yes, that's right. We are gender essentialists here at the Big Picture. And the idea that I would be recovering from a third gin and tonic is not imaginable to me. So I didn't drink during this film. But Yasi, I didn't even know this about you, but this movie is like right in your prime area of movie watching interest. Tell me about it.
Babe, okay. First of all, not to nitpick, but you said the snowman becomes hot when he comes to life. I think we can all agree that the actual snowman was also like aggressively anatomically hot from the beginning. Like, it was almost like,
True.
Who made this? Who made this like Adonis snowman in the middle of the regular snowmans for the contest? No, I love every year. I cannot wait for this time of year. And I queue up these films. There's always new ones, but I also always rewatch the old ones. And it's maybe one of my favorite film genres.
So why?
There's just like a level of delight that they bring about in me. They're not trying to be anything they're not, you know? They're really just giving it to you straight, which is, here is often an insane conceit. Every conceit is insane. They do not operate within the world of reason or physics. Those things don't matter. What matters is the Christmas spirit. And it's so fun. And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like you mentioned the Hallmark ones, I think they did probably start out kind of earnest, right? But what's happened, and it's amazing, is that like now they're just winking at themselves all the time, which is so fun. It's so fun to watch. Like, I live for it. I fucking live for it. Inject it directly into my veins is what
What's
I have
the
to
best
say.
one? What is the apex mountain of self-aware Christmas movies?
I think the one that I always come back to is the Princess Switch trilogy. That's the Vanessa Hudgens. I think Vanessa Hudgens, Lacey Chabert, who we'll talk about, who's in Hot Frosty, and Lohan's kind of gunning for their positions. These are the top queens of the holiday film. But the Princess Switch 1 through 3 are truly each conceit.
The godfather of the genre.
That's right.
Okay.
To get to the third one, when you already have the most insane proposition for the first one, chef's kiss. What you have to come up with for them to like have a third switch of people. So good.
So as you might imagine, I don't have as much experience with you, Yasi, with these movies. I'll pop in on a phenomenon here and then, but the Princess Switch, for example, to me, that's up there with the kind of like the lesser known Kieslowski movies. Like, I'll get around to it eventually, but it's not high on my watch list. And so I'm wondering, like you pointed out, what I think is the most amusing and maybe important thing about Hot Frosty, which is this high degree of self-awareness, of winking at the audience, of the acknowledgement that even by the standards of silly streaming Christmas movies, this premise is fucking weird and
Makes no sense.
maybe even a little upsetting if you really drill down on it. And so like are the other movies as knowing about the absurdity of what they're presenting to the audience?
Yeah, I think so. Like a lot of them will have like little winks to other holiday movies in them. This one actually has 2 in it, which we can talk about. I don't know if you guys caught those Easter eggs. But some of them aren't. Some of them are just like, I need you to get on board, suspend your fucking disbelief, babe. It's Christmas. And you're like, yes, I will. Thank you. Take me away. Calgon, take me away.
So by the standards of these movies, where does Hot Frosty stack up? Like A tier, B tier?
Hot Frosty was so delightful, but also is almost a little too self-aware, not in a bad way, but it almost like puts itself outside of the genre a little bit, but then it doesn't. It's so bizarre because I'm like, you cast Lacey Chabert, who plays it exactly like she plays every other holiday movie, which literally seems like she learned the lines yesterday and is coming in like to cash the check and it's not her fault. Every heroine in these movies is like aggressively earnest and doesn't really have a lot to do. But then you stick in these like comedic actors. Like you have the guy from The State, you have the woman from
Joe
Lo Truglio, Katie, is that her name? Katie Mixon?
Yes.
The woman from Eastbound and
and
Down, who's so
Down.
funny. And the hot snowman was the himbo veterinarian on Schitt's Creek, and now he's the himbo snowman.
Yes, Dustin Milligan is
and
is
of course,
the actor.
Craig Robinson.
And Craig
who you
Robinson, of
mentioned.
course, is the
Right.
sheriff. So when Craig Robinson shows up as the sheriff of this town in this movie, Rob, I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
This
Right.
movie is kidding. Like, this isn't meant to be a Hallmark film. One of the questions I had for you guys was, is the only person who knows what movie he's in is Craig Robinson, or is Craig Robinson the only person who doesn't realize what movie he's in? Rob, what do you think?
I think he realizes what movie he's in. I think he's in a different movie than everybody else on purpose until the end, into the big climax,
Right.
in which he extorts everyone in the town for $2,000 just to immediately. I guess that's a spoiler. I'm sorry.
Was this made
it's-
pre-inflation, by the way? I thought that $2,000 number seemed a tad low.
how do
What
you
was
calibrate?
what was the snowman's crime that he should have such a high
Streaking?
bail in
I
general?
thought it was theft, right? Wasn't it?
It was and he broke
He's-
the very thin pane of glass.
Yeah.
It's just he leaned against it and it broke. I don't think that part was his fault.
Vandalism,
Quite frankly,
public
yeah.
obscenity.
Hooliganism.
Yeah.
Just raising a ruckus broadly. That's $2,000 right there. At least where I come from.
It did look like where you come from.
It
This
did.
Hope Springs does kind of it was giving where you come from.
Okay, so Craig Robinson is the guy in Hot Tub Time Machine who looks at the camera and goes, "It's a hot tub time machine," right? Like I do source a lot of the self-awareness of movies like that to that moment, right? And there isn't a fourth wall break per se. The one Easter egg, like they're watching TV and Lindsay Lohan is on TV and she says, "I went to high school with her." Like I rewound that for my wife. Like I made her watch that part, right?
That was
like
Falling for Christmas, by the way, that was on the TV, which is
Okay,
another
thank you.
holiday movie that Lindsay Lohan is in. And
because she's in the hospital. I was very concerned for her. Like she does,
Yeah.
she ends up all right in that movie, right? Because she seemed to be in some distress, right? Like I don't know if it's amnesia.
nobody dies in these movies.
Thank goodness. So there's a self-awareness, but I didn't think it reached the point of poisonous, right? Like it wasn't meta in a way that irritated me, and I do think that everyone was pretty clear on how absurd this was. But then the moment when they're all together and they start, like the doctor is back, the Eastbound and Down doctor is back. And they're like, what are the physical, like what's happening? And she's like, it's Christmas. Like literally it's Christmas.
It's
like that,
so good.
That
It's
is
Christmas.
that is my diagnosis. It is Christmas time. And everyone's like, that sounds great. And then the movie proceeds from there. I think this movie could have been way more irritating about the meta winking self-aware aspect. And I do think that Craig he's just singing songs like in the middle of the movie for no real reason. But like I enjoyed that aspect of it tremendously, honestly.
Rob, you kind of got ahead of where I wanted this conversation to go from
I
a
apologize.
sensual and sexual perspective.
I got.
I just, on this show, Amanda has a science corner, and Amanda is not here, and so we cannot have Amanda's science corner. But I'm not sure if any
Right.
film short of Dune Part 2 has asked for a science corner more than the film about defrosting the hot snowman.
Yeah.
And then, in the film, like Yasi, help me with this. In the film, what are even the sort of native mythological origins of snowmen? Like, it's not as though he is descended.
Do we have any?
No.
Frosty came alive. Frosty the Snowman.
But he retained his snowiness, He was still essentially snow. Like, this person takes on human corporeal form.
Well, you can't be horny for the snowman made of snow. You have to be horny for this flesh and blood man that was previously a snowman.
I mean, that raises another question, which is Lacey Chabert even horny for this snowman? Other women in the town are very horny.
Oh, boy.
Lauren Holly, I mean, God bless her. I've never sold my stock ever since seeing her.
She slayed, babe. She slayed.
She is just a legend. And she's obviously hot for that snow. But
Lacey Chabert was grieving, babe.
Yeah.
She's grieving. Yeah, she's grieving.
And Katie Mixon, she's, she wants some of the snow. But so this guy becomes a man.
Yeah.
And he watches a lot of television, and he learns how to cook, and he learns how to fix things. And I guess he's sort of unfrozen with the knowledge of English as a communicative language.
Okay, that was one of my things where I was like, it was giving a little bit Encino Man, except Encino Man obviously had him not know English because that makes more sense. But he knew English, but no colloquialisms.
Yes.
So he was like an immigrant who had learned English and like didn't know what like let the cat out of the bag means. You know what I mean? Or like lay low, or like the concept of cancer, which I suppose snowmen don't get cancer. But that part I was like, oh, okay.
A lot of strange choices. And, like they all start to add, forgive me for doing this, but I wouldn't be myself if I didn't do this. It's like at a certain point, I'm like, is this a Louis Buñuel movie? Like, is this Dali? Like, there's a surrealism to some of the creative decision making, right?
It's incredible. I really feel like you're not giving this film enough credit.
Well, I'd like to try. I don't really fully understand. I think maybe all these years of watching all this IP, I'm like, well, how do these pieces fit together? But there are no pieces, right?
No, the man who wrote this movie, I am obsessed with him. I went and checked out his website and read an interview with him. He clearly, I mean, forgive me if this isn't true, but he seems like just a big ass stoner who was like, wouldn't it be fucking funny if? And then he just took that way too far, but like exactly far enough. Thank God. It looks like he's also written other Christmas movies. What a dream job. I would love this job where you just come up with, don't you think?
Yeah, totally.
Can I just nitpick for one? It's really funny. None of that stuff bothered me. It didn't bother me that he's melting, but he won't remove the like extremely heavy woolen scarf, even though he's hot all the time. What bothered me was that there was a snake plant in is that her name? Kathy's home that doesn't have heat. Snake plants are like native to zone 9, 10 places, and they actually cannot live in temperatures under 50 degrees. And it was such a robust snake plant. And that was the only thing that I was like, damn, I would have caught that. Wow. I would have put a different plant in here.
Did you see that? Like the real Yasi just popped out. Right
what
there.
The hell is a zone 9, 10 plant?
Seriously, what are you
talking about?
Babe, this is woman's work, gardening, as you might know. And these are the zones where plants grow.
What the hell zone? What zone is California? What?
9 and 10. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is not a plant that would survive in Hope Springs,
which is
anywhere
in New York,
USA.
by the way.
Oh,
sure.
Is it? Okay, yeah. So it's freezing. I mean, it was freezing. It's snowing outside. You know it's below 50 degrees in that heaterless house. That plant would have been dead, is all I'm saying.
The guy went to a junior high and just hung out at a junior high for half a movie doing like flash mob dances. And your issue is the plant in her house. Okay. All right.
I've made a very good choice having you both here for this conversation.
Yeah.
You did.
The plant brought no joy and delight. All the other things work to propel the plot forward.
Another question for you. What happens when a hot defrosted snowman overheats? Like, does he return? Like, does he die and return to snow form? Does he become water? Does he just become a dead human body? Like, what? Because there's all this suggestion that, like, oh my God, he doesn't cool down, if he doesn't get some ice in his system,
Right.
What's his name? Jack might overheat.
His name is Jack.
But it's like they keep talking about him,
Like
like
Jack
he's
Frost.
a Ford Tempo or something. Like I didn't get it.
Well, luckily, what about the line where he was like, I could wake up tomorrow and be a puddle?
Yeah. Who among us?
Chef's kiss. Perfect writing. What about, I'm sorry, excuse me, the Pretty Woman montage?
Oh, boy.
They paid money to license Pretty Woman, God bless, for the
Roy
shopping
Orbison
montage.
just spinning in his grave.
With the snapping of the jewelry box with the snowman complex.
I rewound that as well. Yes,
10 Oscars, babe. 10 Oscars. I
10
loved
Oscars.
it so much. That's right.
Do you want
was
10 Oscars
everything.
for the same category or 10 Oscars spread across all
This
categories?
film was better than Anora. I'm sorry, I'll say it. I'm the only one brave enough to say it. Anora
honestly,
wishes.
they have a lot to say to each other. They're
They're
very
in
much in
dialogue.
conversation.
It's really true.
Have you seen Anora yet, Rob?
I have not. No, if it's gotten to Ohio, I'm not aware of it, and I don't think it has. Yeah,
Hasn't gone to Hope Springs.
we're in a Zone 10 movie environment, and movies like Anora cannot thrive here.
I was thinking about doing Yasi's Oscars Corner on this episode because you were sharing some fiery takes,
Some spicy takes.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that later. I do have, again, I only see 4 movies a year or so. If you don't count the Christmas movies.
But before we move on from Hot Frosty,
No, we're not moving on because I need to tell you about the other Easter egg you didn't catch.
What is it?
Please.
The part where Kathy goes, oh yeah? Well, I think it's about him being a snowman. And she's like, yeah, and I'm the queen of Cordonia.
I wondered about that line.
That's right.
What
There's
is
a film
that?
called Royal Christmas, 2014, starring Lacey Chabert, where she does become the queen of Cordonia.
What is Cordonia?
They make these fake places. There's one, the one in Princess Switch is like, oh my God, what is it called? Belgravia. A lot of the Christmas films involve people becoming royalty by accident or fate, which is really great.
Sure.
A few notes on Lacey Chabert.
Yes.
Obviously, the joke where Lohan appears on screen is a reference to her time in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Interesting year for the Mean Girls Extended Universe or the musical in January. And it seems like, I don't know, I guess in some respects, Mean Girls is back in the culture. Lacey Chabert, she's got 2 modes, right? She's got sickly sweet and surprised. And I don't, can she do any other type of acting?
She was excellent in Mean Girls. Don't you remember? She was actually really good and really funny and amazing. And I don't understand why she turns that completely off when she does these kinds of films. But again, maybe I think it's a genre consideration. This is like a noir or like a spaghetti Western. It has, specific ways that it needs to be. And this is how Lacey was actually playing it the way it was meant to be.
I love it. So you're saying she's like the Telly Savalas, the way he would show up in spaghetti Westerns and just be like, that's just Telly Savalas. He's just pretending to be in Italy in a Western. But in fact, he's only got one style and we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, it's cloyingly sweet, a little pained.
I have one really important thing to discuss with you guys that hopefully will open up to a wider conversation, which is the final needle drop of the film. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch it. You said it was a Coldplay song? What Coldplay song? I'm not
This song is called
familiar.
Feels Like I'm Falling in Love. It's spelled as if it were one word.
Okay.
Sure. Coldplay.
I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Coldplay. This song was written by the band and produced by Max Martin.
Bait and switch. Okay.
It features something named Zerb. What is Zerb?
Oh, Zerb. Wasn't he the villain of the Toy Story? Isn't he the guy with
I
like
think
the
that's
gun?
Zerg.
Oh, okay. Well,
So it's
then
not
I don't
the
know.
villain
I don't know
from the
Zerb.
Toy Story films.
That's Coldplay will collaborate with anyone at this point. I think they're just up for anything.
So this song was released in October of 2024, and I'll be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time with Coldplay in the last 10 years. I have kind of moved on. There was a time in my life when I would really, really go to bat for Parachutes. You know, I really, really liked Parachutes, their first record.
Parachutes is a phenomenal album.
And I like A Rush of Blood to the Head as well, the second album.
The Scientist.
Yeah.
Oh, Come
Jam.
Up to Meet Me.
Yeah.
Tell
those
you
are good albums. And I thought this is a good band. Are they iterative, duplicative even of some other bands I like? Maybe. But I really like them. I like Chris Martin. Whatever they've been up to since like 2012, I'm mystified by. You know, it's like they're dressed in like carnival outfits and they're making EDM and there's like all kinds of stuff going on that I don't get. But for whatever reason, and I was just trolling YouTube the other day, and I came across a video starring Ralph Macchio singing a Coldplay song. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
Like you haven't seen this video, you don't know about this?
It's an official music video by the band Coldplay starring Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, the name of the song is The Karate Kid. And in the
Are you
video,
sure that you just didn't order a cameo where Ralph Macchio sings a fake Coldplay song just for you and you accidentally uploaded it to YouTube? I don't know if this is a real thing, I have to say.
It's a real thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to find like where this song lives. Like it's not on this new Coldplay record. And
it's a real testament to the saturation of online media that this came and went and nobody heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Coldplay, arguably one of the biggest bands.
I guess it's on the Full Moon edition of the Moon Music album.
Sure, of course. Who couldn't forget the Full Moon edition of the Moon Music album?
I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. But I guess Coldplay is back.
I don't know.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, the song started playing and it's like, is this Coldplay? Like they didn't get Coldplay.
You recognize
for the end of this
Rob?
movie. I thought it might be Coldplay. I didn't recognize the song, but I was like, this is either they got themselves a fake Coldplay or they they spent more money on this song than they did on the whole rest of the movie to get a Coldplay song.
I'm sorry, you don't think Pretty Woman was extremely expensive to license? That's a very famous song. That's probably a little more than, no offense to Chris Martin, than the brand new Coldplay song that didn't even have any vocals.
I think Coldplay are a little mystified by Coldplay in the last 10 years, so I don't think you're alone there at all, Sean.
Well, I like Chris Martin just kind of following his light. You know, he's just like
He certainly is.
I'm exploring new spaces like Netflix original films.
Yes.
Here's some other songs that are that appear in the film Hot Frosty: Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach.
Is that in the public
domain? Wait, that's the EDM. Doesn't it say when he turns into a real person, like the caption is like EDM version of Tchaikovsky? Like,
yes, you're referring to Tchaikovsky's The Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Excuse me. That's a different
song.
Thing. Yes. Sorry.
And then a bunch of songs that you probably only hear while watching Love Island. You know, there's like a whole genre of music.
Right.
Yasi, talk to me about that.
Love
genre.
is Blind. Yeah.
Yeah, the Love is Blind music. What is that?
It's just for like, actually, this is a great moment for me to talk about. Do you guys even mention the Chriselle Staus cameo?
No, we haven't mentioned
from Selling Sunset, a fellow Netflix franchise. It reminds me because that show also has this music where there's just an entire genre of music that is like a cottage industry of weird EDM music that goes in the background of these reality television programs.
The Chriselle sequence is very strange because she's just like in full Chriselle makeup and
it's 9 a.m.
Yeah. She's there with a small child. It's like, who has time to look like this with a tiny child in New Hope Springs or wherever the fuck they live?
She has one single line. She never comes back.
Oh, is she the one with the kid in the diner at the beginning? Okay.
Yeah.
She's like, the chocolate chip pancakes sequence.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And then never to be seen again.
So Hot Frosty, recommend, Yasi?
10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Could not recommend more. Will turn your whole world around. And then watch all the princess switches. And then, like, if you really want to experiment, watch Operation Christmas Drop.
What's that?
Where it's Cat Graham, and it's like a military themed Christmas movie where she goes with like a man in the military. I'm a little hazy on the details because it's been like 2 years since I've seen it, but they're bringing food and gifts to a small island in Micronesia, and she's a bit of a Scrooge. And by the end, the renewed spirit of Christmas is within her, seeing this beautiful display of charity and love. It's a little colonizer-y, but like that can take us right into Moana, babe. Honestly, do we want a bridge?
What a segue.
That was very artful, and I'm loath to not ride on that flotilla with you straight to Moana 2. But honestly, Yasi, you like to joke that you're like, do I fit in here at the Ringer? Or is this right that my shows are here? And then whatever you've been doing for the last 20 minutes, some of the most Ringer shit I've ever heard in my life.
Beautiful.
So
I'm
you.
nothing if not a devoted soldier in the Ringer army.
Well, many people are saying that. You too will travel to Micronesia to spread the good word. Let us talk now about Moana 2. I had no idea what you would have to contribute. I didn't know any of your thoughts about Disney movies in general, Yasi. I do know a bit about Rob's, and Rob's, he's got a family, he's got children, and like when something like this comes up, is Moana 2 still in the household? Is it like an event? Is it something that the kids are aware of and excited about?
They're aware of it, excited about, I don't know. There's like a performative, like, oh, not this. But then when they watch it, they're like thrilled by it, right?
Because
like
your sons are is it the performativeness because your sons are sort of like a little bit older and they're like sort of growing out of it? Yeah.
That's right. So my sons are 13 and 11, and then we have a 4-year-old daughter. Right. And so we're all in the theater, and whenever a song started in Moana 2, the boys just groaned.
Yeah.
Like the 11-year-old was just like, this song is terrible within like 5 seconds. And he was right, by the way, but still, like there is an immediate knee-jerk performative, like, oh no, they're singing. One thing I do want to mention, when I walked into the theater, there was a dude walking out of the theater, and he said out loud, he's like, I can't believe Wicked was a musical. Nobody told me it was a musical. I had to put on my headphones and draw. It was the greatest thing in the world to me. He was so mad,
and that man was me.
So Moana, the original Moana, right? Like that's 2016, right? And so my kids, the boys are like 8 and 6 or something, and so they're right in the wheelhouse for that. And that's one of the movies we watched where then the soundtrack was constant for the next 6 months, right? I would put Encanto in this category, both Frozen's, but like Moana was one of the better soundtracks, right? Like Shiny, like the Jermaine Clement's, Crab song,
banger,
the fake Bowie's a banger, an absolute banger. And so I think even if they wouldn't have admitted it, I think the boys were excited by the prospect of another movie with bangers like that, even if they have a knee-jerk dislike of musicals now. And meanwhile, the 4-year-old is just crawling on the back of the seat in front of us. Like she's having a completely different experience.
So she's not really locked in on the Moana mythology in any way.
Not the mythology. She was like, this is really exciting, when the movie started, and that was very sweet. And then she started climbing. It is adorable, but then she started climbing on it. I think she was enjoying the movie in her own way.
Okay.
Right. And what I'm curious about is if she's going to request to see it again or to hear the music again. And I'm thinking that she will ask to see the movie. She will be mad that it's not on Disney Plus right now. I don't think she is going to demand the soundtrack like in the minivan, or at least I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some reasons for that. The first Moana film is directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, who are two of the more beloved and successful Disney filmmakers of the last 40 years. I mean, they worked on The Great Mouse Detective in 1986. They directed The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules. Like, they've been doing it for a long time. And Moana, as I mentioned actually on an episode earlier this week when we talked about Wicked, I'm like, this is really like as good as it gets, in my opinion, for Disney Animation Studios films. Like the combination of story, character, songs, and hummability, repeatability. When you have young kids, these movies are on, or as Rob said, like the soundtracks are on all the time. They can make you absolutely crazy if they're not any good. In my opinion, and I know some people on this panel may disagree, this has songs that are co-written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, the first film. I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think the first film might be, I think it might be his best work. Now, obviously, Hamilton is his biggest work and noisiest work, and there are In the Heights fans and Tick Tick Boom fans, and he's done a lot of things over the years. But I fucking love those songs from Moana, and he is not the author of the songs in this new film. And Musker and Clements are not back either. This is a new group of people who are making this movie, and significantly, the movie started out as a TV series. And I guess it was going to be a limited series that was going to tell like a contained story over, I guess, like 6 or 8 episodes or something like that. I'm not sure of the details. But Disney shifted its strategy after realizing that streaming was a pox on our society that is ruining storytelling. And I'm grateful for that. And honestly, that there's just more money in the hills of theatrical exhibition. So they transformed this TV show, which is now directed by David Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Ledoux Miller, into a film, a theatrical film. And so, the cast is back. Aulier Cravalho is back. Dwayne Johnson is back. Nicole Scherzinger is back. Tamora Morris. Like, all of those folks are back. The movie itself, like so many Disney sequels, feels like the same movie that we saw, but with just a little bit more stuff attached to it. Is that a reasonable description of what we saw?
It does map pretty cleanly onto the first Moana.
Moana needs to go on an adventure across the sea to find a thing that is somewhat indescribable, MacGuffin-y, and she needs some help along the way from some new folks who will allow her to become the savior, and then her island and the people of the world will all live in harmony. That's more or less the framework of the story.
You nailed it, right? And then, like halfway through the movie, it's like, is this a villain? It's like, no, she's just singing a disco song, you know. And it's like, oh, okay. But she's that the disco song is in the shiny spot, right? Like halfway through, we meet like a charismatic, maybe villain, maybe not, and then we move on to the big, the big storm that we conquer at the end. It's like a Star Wars sort of reimagining of the first Moana, basically.
Yeah, she's like an envoy to a storm, not so much a real character. So Yasi, what do the whole thing? Moana, the first film, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Moana 2.
Start with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, like where do you stand on the whole deal?
Okay, I just need to preface this by saying, when you're always like, who is this movie for? This movie is not for me. I don't have children, and I don't like musicals. There's like 3 musicals on earth that I enjoy, and the rest of them, it's like none of my business. Do you know what I mean?
What are the 3?
Grease has a really special place in my heart.
Okay.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Great film.
And the South Park one.
Also a great film.
One of the best,
you will enjoy an
Great
animated musical feature.
Yeah. And like, I was wondering if like because I won't name names, but a friend of mine did send me a voice memo. I guess he had been listening to a Big Picture episode where you did say Moana was the best musical of all time, and he was like incensed.
That did not happen. It was the framework was 21st century.
Okay.
So tell your friend, listen closely.
Listen, pay attention. How much of this is like Stockholm syndrome because you have children who force you to like watch and listen to it a million times?
Yeah.
Like, because for
Fair
example,
question.
like I love The Little Mermaid because I was a child when The Little Mermaid came out, and it's like deeply meaningful to me. And those songs, but I would argue those songs still bang. I watched Moana when it came out, not in the theater, and I remember liking it. And then I watched it again to like pregame for Moana 2. And I was crying, and I found it very emotionally manipulative because I was like, there's no reason for me to be crying, but I cried a bunch. I think it's good. It was good. It's cute. It's whatever. Moana 2 was awful. It was terrible. I didn't understand what was happening. And I'm an adult person. I mean, I was drinking, so maybe that's something to do with it.
What were you drinking, by the way?
I was just having red wines because I knew I had to.
In the theater.
That's right.
With the children.
With the children. They're not my children.
Did you bring
I'll
a
take care of
bottle?
them.
What's
I
the
know.
situation here?
No, I went to the Look Cinema in Glendale, a little known, beautiful cinema where you can recline the seats and they have a full bar menu and food menu.
Right.
That's how I like to see films. And
You said chicken fingers and red wine.
That's right.
Anything else?
That'll be
Unhinged combo.
$45.
That was $45. I
Right.
ate some of the child's Sour Patch Kids.
Against their
Ooh.
will, or did they offer them to you?
No, we
probably-
were friends. He shared.
Okay.
I just like couldn't follow the plot. There was too many characters. I was like, why are there
Lot of
so many?
characters.
I can see it in a TV show that working. Okay, here, not to be like Hot Frosty made sense, but this doesn't make sense. Why? This wasn't for the first Moana 2, but it bothered me more in this one. Why do some people have accents and some don't? Why are you all in the same tribe? And
accent
some of
thing
you
is
are
wild.
Australian, and some of you are from New Zealand, and some of you are American. What are you even fucking talking about? What's going on here? And then also, I'm sorry, not to like put on my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat, but did you not feel that the subliminal messaging of both these films is like pro-globalism?
Well, I don't think there is like the sort of means of production and capitalistic society that we see represented meaningfully in Moana. So I'm not sure the idea of capitalism maps onto the world of Moana.
I didn't say capitalism. I said globalism.
Well, but globalism
Open
is a function
borders.
of capitalism. They
Listen,
only make sense in
This
unison.
is this is a metaphor. They don't have to show commerce to deploy their insidious messaging.
It's an interesting question. So you think this is sort of a post-Clintonian economic text?
Yes.
Yeah. We need to deregulate Motunui so that we can...
We can't survive without communing with other
Our
cultures
story will
outside.
end here.
Our story
if
will
we
end
do not
here.
import goods.
Yes. Also, I'm
From
sorry.
China.
They brought all those people and they also already spoke English.
Are you pro-tariffs? What's the situation here?
No. I'm
Right,
not
yes.
pro. I'm simply asking questions. I'm simply here to ask questions. Okay. I'm just curious. That's all.
I don't think I spent enough time. And honestly, that is the kind of thing I would think hard about. I don't think that's the case for Moana because these societies are relatively primitive. And so in this film, which explores the idea of people beyond Moana's island and the village where she lives, which, you know, I thought was kind of a nice concept. I didn't find it offensive or
I wasn't offended. I was simply trying to use your galaxy brain.
I do think that in a lot of Disney product, there is this expectation of a kind of global unity agreeing upon Disney product. And,
as they should to make Disney money.
Yeah. I mean, that there's definitely an undercurrent of that in a lot of this stuff. I mean, I generally agree the movie's just not very good. It's disappointing. It wasn't meant to be a movie. And the reason why this episode is titled What Even Is a Movie is because a lot of movies that come along nowadays are just sort of like, this didn't start that way. You know, like Hot Frosty to me feels like it started out as a dare or as a tweet or as like, I wonder if I could conjure this into a meme and I'm going to make it a feature film for the largest global streaming platform in the history of mankind. And likewise, Moana 2 is like, you know, we don't really need a Moana 2. And back when we were kids, I feel like this is relevant to this conversation. They did make a lot of sequels like this to
Straight to
animated films.
DVD.
And they went straight to DVD. And maybe you could
Right.
catch them on the Disney Channel, but they were not a part of the theatrical presentation of this, you know, beautifully codified Disney brand. And I was
Yeah.
looking at the list, the history of Disney animated features last night, because, you know, I'm just a cool, normal guy. And
Sure.
there's a turning point. And that turning point fits narrowly into our coming of age collectively, like amongst the three of us in our ages, which is that you have this second golden age of Disney animated films, which essentially kicks off with The Little Mermaid. And you have Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. And then that leads very clearly into Toy Story and Pixar in 1995. And there were still Disney, you know, 2D animation happening at that time. But in 1994, 1995, you get a significant growth in the number of animated movies that this studio starts making. Some of them are straight to DVD. Some of them are like, there would be a new Winnie the Pooh movie that is theatrically released, but it is not the noisy Disney original that is coming out like Hercules of that year, or Tarzan or something like that. And Disney Animation, which in the 1980s, I think only produced 5 feature films, a very small number, in the 90s goes to like 45, like a huge number of movies that they just start cranking out. And so you have to kind of like discern as a kid, like, well, this is like a real one and a good one. And this is like a junky one that we'll watch, but we know doesn't really matter that much. And you have to convince your parents to buy it on VHS if you really want to see it. And now we're in the place where the junkie thing is now the main course. And Moana 2 is like it will be one of the biggest movies of the year, which is fascinating and quite sad, honestly. Like,
well, can I say, Sean, to say something nice about Moana 2? I don't know if it's nice about Moana 2, but when you always ask, like, who is this for, right? If it's for children, I'm going to tell you what, Leo, the 7.5-year-old, he loved it. He loved every second of it. He cried. He later said, I'm going to believe him, believe children. But when Moana was, perhaps touch and go there at the end, not to spoil, he said he cried because she came back to life and they were happy tears. But I think he was crying because he was very worried. And he loved it. He loved every minute of it. I'm sure for him it was as satisfying as Moana 1 and as satisfying as any other animated film would be. It's for us that we didn't, enjoy it. But like, is it for us,
Yeah, I mean, who is this for is like a complicated question that sometimes I'm interested in having a conversation, sometimes I'm not. Of course, I understand that the Moana sequel is for children, so much so that I already have 3 tickets to go see it again on Friday with my daughter. And the only reason I didn't take her yesterday is because she was in school. And so I'm going to see it again and she's going to see it and I'll be very surprised if she doesn't like it. I have a heart. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand.
And Hey Hey. I'm sorry. Hey Hey is the best part of the movie, and Hey Hey was the best part of Moana 1, and I stand Hey Hey, and I would watch a Hey Hey spinoff.
That's interesting.
We have a stuffed Hey Hey in this house. I bought my daughter. Yeah. Also, the biggest laugh line in the theater is when Moana was touch and go, and my 4-year-old blurted out, "Moana died," and everyone in the theater laughed. So that was the best part of the whole movie, I think, for everyone. Certainly for me.
Yeah,
self-aware.
That's good movie watching. You were making it seem like she was not paying attention, but she seemed locked in.
Can I ask you guys a dad question?
Yeah,
please.
Okay, so you're both the father of daughters. You're both girl dads.
Yeah, you are our daughter. That's right.
I am your daughter.
That's
I'm your
right.
eldest daughter. There is this thing that's been made a lot out of in the past. Sean, you could, as a scholar of Disney films, could probably tell me better how long it's been, but like where like Moana 1 was very much celebrated for this, right? Where like it's a story of a girl who there's no romance. There's no Prince Charming. There's no love story. And this has kind of become a thing, right? It happens now. Most of these movies don't have what, Hot Frosty has, or
there's
or
no ice
Mermaid,
penis in the film Moana. That's right.
Right. But also all of Snow White, Cinderella, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that's ultimately good?
I have a point of view on it. What do you think, Rob?
Well, they make a big deal. There's like an in-joke in Moana 2 about how she's not a princess, but everyone thinks that she is. Like Maui keeps calling her princess and she keeps being like, I'm not a princess. And Maui says basically to us, like, but a lot of people think you are.
Right.
Like they're making a very big deal out of them not being princesses anymore and them being they're strong female characters. Right. And I hadn't thought so much about the no love interest thing, but that's true as well. Like Encanto, I think is my personal favorite, of this era, both for the movie itself and for the songs, for the soundtrack, but Mirabelle in Encanto, like has no love interest. And like the whole point of her is that she's not special at all, which makes her the most special at all. Right. Like I do think that they are reacting to the classic Disney construction of every female character is a princess who needs to be saved by Prince Charming, in some fashion, like even is it Charmed? What's the Tangled? The Rapunzel,
huge favorite of my household.
Yeah, the Rapunzel, and mine too. And the Rapunzel sort of myth is sort of strong. She's a much more self-sufficient character in Tangled than she is historically. So I do think that Disney is thinking very, very hard about these things. The question of whether it's a good thing or not, I hadn't thought about it, but like, what's the argument for it not being a good thing? Like, they're just trying to frame it as like, you don't have to be a princess anymore.
I'm just 2 things. I'm always suspicious of the girl bossification of anything.
Sure.
And then also like, I understand it at the beginning because I think it's all there was these love stories and like the idea that your only value in life is to find love. But given the like, I'm sorry, people are turning this off. They're like, this woman, which we came here to talk about Moana too. You know, young people are not dating. People are not getting married. Like it's actually a sociocultural problem that dating and romance is difficult and struggling in society. And I'm not sure like if every indoctrination of children removes the idea of love and romance, it's that great. So I don't know. I'm simply posing questions. I'm just here to ask questions about globalization, about gender, about
powerful stuff.
I genuinely appreciate you raising this, and I have spent a lot of time discussing this with my wife for a variety of reasons. One, I think, sure, maybe 0.06% of the incelification of sad, frustrated men is due to Disney's decision to empower young women to not rely upon the male archetypes that often populated the first 75 years of their films. In my house, we have spent a ton of time in the last 18 months watching huge chunks of the history of Disney animated feature films. Right. My daughter, as I've said many times on the show, is obsessed with Disney princesses. Obviously they have, a tractor beam that draws in any girl who is even lightly interested in this world. But in the case of my daughter, she fully loves these films. She loves everything from the earliest Snow White renditions of these stories all the way through the modern, independent-minded Moana and Encanto. But there is something primal with my daughter where she is like, I want to get married to a prince. She sees that at the conclusive moments of these films as deeply meaningful. Sleeping Beauty, for example, which is one of the most beautifully made movies of all time, but has this like so simple and to some extent dumb portrayal of the role of the hero versus the damsel in distress, and our title character having no agency and literally sleeping through the final 30 minutes of the movie.
Her year of rest and relaxation.
Truly, she was ahead of the curve, and she was not even coping with modern technology. And
rest is feminine. It's true.
But so my point is, by saying all that, is that what it becomes in our house is a balance. It means that you can watch Sleeping Beauty and you can watch Moana, and you can have both. You can see an independent female warrior who saves her tribe without the necessity of longing for a man or a woman or whomever else. And you can also still love Sleeping Beauty. I think having them both, and what it feels like what Disney is doing is in some ways correcting and arguably overcorrecting on a long history of these oversimplified gender expectations.
Right.
If in 20 years we haven't had a single romance in any Disney animated film, then I think it's more than reasonable to be like, did Disney depressurize romance for young kids across the country and across the world? And then did that have a deleterious effect on mating and relationships in our culture? It's definitely possible. I don't know.
I'm just here to ask questions. Listen, I love your approach. Ladies is pimps too. That's what you're teaching your daughter, and I think that's wonderful.
She has one of those like little letter puzzle piece things that says "Ladies is pimps too."
Ladies
right
is
over her
pimps
bed.
too.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting because I think fairy tales, and then we don't have to get into the whole thing of these are fairy tales that were adapted, that were the darkness was cut off, but also are archetypal, right? That's why your daughter reacts so strongly, because human archetypes are in the collective unconscious. They're beyond learned. And the archetype of the princess is so strong. It's the divine feminine, right? And it has a lot of value. And I think that gets swept under the rug when it's like dumbed down to fourth wave girl boss feminism to be like,
it does,
you can be a boss, actually.
But I don't think that Moana to me is like,
I'm not sure Moana
is Athena, is Artemisia. Like that's like Greek and Roman mythology where it's like, there's a woman who is the most powerful person in all the land. That's that's Wonder Woman.
And she's a demigod. And she's also displays divine feminine qualities in her caring for the collective and her nurturing, which is the divine feminine.
But I did wonder if she was supposed to be, if the goofy dude who
I thought that
worships
too.
Maui,
Yeah.
I thought, are they going to get together? Like, what is the actual end game? This all makes me think about Frozen as well. Like, isn't there a lot of discourse about like Elsa, right? Like, and I think the sort of expansion there is Elsa gay? Like, it seems like, isn't there there's a Saturday Night Live skit about that, I think, about the idea if they're going to use Frozen, to have, to break that wall,
To
I
soft
guess.
launch the first.
Exactly.
I do not think in this phase of American history that is going to happen.
No.
I think Frozen 3 comes out in 2027, which would be still in the midst of this new administration. So I don't see that happening.
Elsa's going to be in Trump's cabinet, and it's going to dismantle the EPA. I think that's probably the plot of Frozen 3.
It kind of checks out when you think about her at her most rageful. She's like,
there you go.
Cover this land in ice. That's
busting
what I do.
dams and whatnot. Yeah.
You managed to circle the square because I think what if we dropped Elsa into Hot Frosty 2? I think that could be, and she comes in and she wants to break up Jack and Lacey Chabert, right? And she's like, I know about ice. And I know how to get down with you. It's like the old question about whether or not Lois Lane could handle Superman's, superpowered member.
Sean, he's a human now, babe. It's over. The snow.
You're right.
His temperature is normal. She
Why
kissed
did
him.
he become a human? Is that what it did? That's all she had to do was kiss him.
That was a little bit of a Sleeping Beauty nod, no?
I believe
Sure.
it was.
It was very funny that he died and everyone just turned away from him and said,
come on, let's go.
Let the sheriff
will deal with
let
it.
the sheriff handle
Also,
the dead body on Christmas Eve. Yeah.
Nobody brought up the ACAB of it all, like the anti-carceral state that was clearly
There
like a
is,
theme of this
right.
of this film.
Hope Springs is going to defund the fuck out of the police.
I'm just saying that wasn't by accident.
No.
You guys really didn't disappoint today. Genuinely, you're most cracked. I'm so thankful for you both. Any what else do we need to say? Like Moana and Hot Frosty, they're barely movies, and yet they're going to end up being like two of the most watched movies in American society in 2024.
Hot Frosty is fab, and you will not regret watching it. It's fun. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not, and I think that's the difference between that and Moana 2. That's my 2 cents.
I think that's right. And I don't think Moana 2 is going to click in this household in terms of the soundtrack being ubiquitous, for the next 6 months. I think that the songs are trash, man. And I remember walking out of Frozen 2 and thinking the songs were trash. And then the kids wanted to hear it constantly. And I ended up vibing very hard in the end with the Frozen. Like it came around for me.
Not a fan of Frozen 2 personally.
Yeah, the movie, no, but the soundtrack, I really would put on the same level as Frozen 1, but there is no chance of that happening between Moana and Moana 2.
I just what was going on? He was rapping at some point. There was just so much.
That's
Maui's way.
I know, but it was like a lot. There was, and what was he even saying? Like, what was he on about? Like in that song,
he was trying to pump up Moana. He was like,
that was the girl
this.
boss. The girl bossing of Moana.
He was like, they don't even know about you,
way.
girl. You're the real queen of this land.
I will say I was really stunned. The children, even the 4-year-old, knew the name of that sort of like simp artist that was on the boat. I don't remember. I still don't even remember it. But they were like, yeah, so and so. Like, and I was like, you're 4 and you caught that? Like, maybe it's one of those like dog whistle type things where like they actually are like so good at making it for children to understand that some of it slips past us, but a 4-year-old can follow. It's totally possible.
I found the film somewhat disappointing. I didn't mention it's Abigail Barlow and Emily Baer are the writers of the songs for this film, and they were the writers of the songs for the unofficial Bridgerton musical. Are either of you guys up on that? That was a bit of a phenomenon in the late COVID period.
Okay.
And they have now fully ported over to reputable
That's not the
Disney
thing
productions.
In London where there was a stripper and it went viral in the manner of the. That's not one of those. I'm thinking of something else. Excuse me.
Magic Mike's Last Dance. I'm pretty sure that's what
there
you're
we go.
referring to.
That's
Rob
exactly what I'm referring to.
Surprisingly, who brought the horniest energy to this pod? It was Rob from the jump.
What do you mean surprisingly? Look at how strapping he is. He's downright Dustin Milliganian.
All right. Okay.
That's my dad. It's my dad you're talking about, first of all.
My wife was a little alarmed by Dustin Milligan's whole vibe in this movie.
Yeah,
She's like,
he was
what
really
happened to him?
toothy.
A little. I was just gonna say, way too much smiling. Like, take
So
it down
much-
a notch.
A lot of teeth. a lot of teeth.
Are there any movies at the end of this year that you guys are excited for?
Oh yeah, Baby Girl.
Yes. Now that is a Yasi movie.
And also, what's the movie from the woman who made Morven Caller? I love her. I love all her movies.
Lynn Ramsey. Yeah, that's not
Lynn
coming out until
Ramsey.
next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not next year. That's the movie I'm the most excited for. Sorry, maybe for this year, Baby Girl is high on my list.
Good choice.
I
Rob?
want to see Wicked, dude. I have not yet seen Wicked. I think the boys are into Wicked. You're both grimacing, so maybe I'm
Did you
not
know it's
going
a
to
musical?
enjoy. I do now, only because of that guy.
I saw the film. Some good stuff, but I wasn't ultimately a big fan of it. But it looks like it may turn out to be the movie phenomenon of the year. People love it.
Because both adults and kids want to see it, so it's gonna blow
It's got
out
a
of the water.
two plus generation level of connectivity. You've got parents who can bring their kids who experienced it for the first time. I think in 2001 is when it was first staged. And then you got even people who read the book, and obviously The Wizard of Oz is almost 100 years of history.
Right.
So yeah, it's
We'll
connecting
never
with a
get
lot of people.
anything. We'll never get anything new again.
You know what my kids really want to see? Sonic 3. Sonic
Yeah.
3 is the most anticipated.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's correct, yes.
Amazing.
This is the third film in the Sonic series. Will you be watching any of those, Yasi?
Maybe honestly, I played Sonic as a kid. I didn't know this existed. If I'm being
Jim
keeping
Carrey.
it 100 with you
Yeah,
guys,
Jim
but-
Carrey
Best-
plays Dr. Robotnik.
Best Jim
Oh.
Carrey role in a
Okay,
decade
great.
or more.
Best Jim
Wow.
Carrey role in what, Rob?
In a decade or more. What's the better Jim
Slim
Carrey movie
Pickens
in the
there,
last
brother.
10
I
years?
don't, that's
Yeah.
kind of an odd way to
Yeah.
frame it.
yeah, he's
Sorry.
not worked a lot.
Okay, well, those are really some good choices. Sonic 3, Baby Girl, and Wicked.
What about you, Sean?
there
You
we
already
go.
saw
Yeah.
these movies.
I've seen most of
Movies.
what I want to see. Let's take a look at what I'm excited about. Thank you for
I want to
asking.
see the Pope. I want to see the Pope movie again. Also,
Yeah.
Conclave.
Yeah. I want to
It's
see
on
that
VOD
for the first
now. You
time.
can rent it.
Thank God. I will be. No, but it's only really enjoyable if you see it in the theater with a bunch of elderly people.
Can't say I disagree with that.
Not only, but it's extra enjoyable. Allow me to.
The
correct
Wild
myself.
Robot, I know that's that's on VOD now. We're sort of waiting until that's not $25, but we really want to see the Wild
Oh,
Robot.
the
We're excited for
Lohan
that.
holiday movie. Sorry.
What's that called?
That one is called. Hold on one second. I have it in my little notes here. It is called Our Little Secret, and the premise is that two resentful exes are forced to spend Christmas under the same roof after discovering that their partners are siblings.
Intriguing. There's actually there's one movie that I'm very interested in that I haven't seen yet, and then there's another movie that I think is very relevant to this trio. Better Man. You guys know what Better Man is? Better Man's the Robbie Williams biopic.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
right.
Well, remember
What
I
is
sent
he?
this to you.
You
He's
did.
a monkey.
Yes.
He's a
I'm
monkey.
I'm dying to see
Okay.
this.
Maybe
Sure.
there's a little drop in from this trio to discuss that film at some point.
I'd love
and then
to.
A Complete Unknown, which I have seen, which I don't really want to talk about until I talk about it on the show. But that's the Bob Dylan film starring Timothy Chalamet.
No interest.
Yeah.
Rob,
No,
not
thank
into
you.
it.
Well, no, I'm a little nervous about it.
Mhm.
Can you say anything at all? Or are you just completely
I saw it.
withholding your
I'd say
opinion?
Can you?
well.
How annoying will men be post seeing that film?
I mean, how annoying will women be? I think is a reasonable question to ask about any Timothy Chalamet movie, right?
That's a good point. This is an equal opportunity,
Yeah.
bringing out the annoying in everybody.
And then it's an Edward Norton performance. So how annoying will Sean be is a reasonable question to ask. You know, always
Whoa.
going to bat for my guy. Yeah,
Edward Norton is in that movie. Who does he play?
he plays Pete Seeger.
Sure, he does. Yeah.
Also, Scoot McNairy plays Woody Guthrie. Were you aware of that?
Hey, I was not aware of any of this. This is
Can
good
I ask
information.
a broader question, Sean? Really quick. I'm sorry, you probably want us to go now, but since I have your film expert ear, why do you think there's such a recent push towards so many films about music in the biopic sense, because that was kind of a dead space for a while, and now it seems like we're so back. Heavy air quotes and tempered your expectations, but like there's the Bruce Springsteen one coming out. Like I guess Elvis kind of is that what kicked it off, but like it's going kind of crazy.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody making $900 million. I think set all this in motion.
bad.
I mean, next year we have a Michael Jackson one as well. I mean, the one thing I
nobody
can say
else.
about the Bob Dylan movie, like holding all other kind of criticisms aside,
Yeah.
is that there are several sequences in which the Bob Dylan songs are performed on camera by the actors, and you're like, God damn, like this really is one of the best songs of all time.
Right.
And-
You're reminded.
Yeah,
of,
and reasonable people can even disagree about the quality of Bob Dylan's songwriting, but it's kind of the same feeling when you're watching the Queen movie, which straight up stinks. I mean, it's really just not a good movie at all.
it's so bad.
But there are moments like when he's performing at Live Aid where you're just like, this is fucking awesome. Like this just
Cheap.
sounds great. These songs are incredible. Like it just works. And so
It's like cheap. It's so cheap to use the strength of people's goodwill and love of classic music.
it is what it is, though. That's exactly what it is, Yasi.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a Beatles one coming too.
In
Speaking
theory,
of.
there are 4 Beatles films that are each
Oh,
that's
individually
right.
focused on each Beatle.
Timothy
which-
Chalamet will play all 4
all
Beatles.
4 Beatles. The wig budget goes crazy on that one, babe. See, if I would, this is what I would do. I would smoke some weed and I'd be like, what if we had a Beatles movie? But they're all one guy.
Sounds like you should run Sony Pictures.
No, but if anyone's listening who loves to fund creative minds, if any feminists in the space of film are listening and want to fund my creative mind, I think there should be a Slits biopic. I think that is what the world
Excellent.
needs. I think one of the best things about music biopics is when they're not too famous, because it becomes too uncanny valley when you're trying to understand what you're looking at and it's someone you know very well, but like nobody is that familiar with the Slits and their story is so cool and crazy.
Mhm. So
I'm
Bob
available
Iger,
for
if you're
me-
listening.
I'm available for
go.
meetings. If I haven't already offended you with my take on Moana 2, I'm here.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Lin-Manuel Miranda will do the
songs for
music. And Timothy Chalamet will play Ari Up. Let's fucking
we go.
go.
Rob, what's next on 60 Songs? What are you doing next week? Spoil it here for us. Come on.
The post Christmas, the post Thanksgiving episode rather is Linkin Park, which I think is very
Jesus
appropriate.
Christ, I hate
Sean's a
Linkin Park.
huge fan.
So you hate Linkin Park?
Yeah, they're
That's
like my
very
least favorite
interesting.
band. This has
I
come up
wrote
many times on the show.
9,500 words about your least favorite band. Okay, you don't think like Mike
Someone had
Shinoda
to.
is a real rap head? Is the conclusion that Justin and I have come
A
to?
real
Like, he's-
rap head?
Yeah, like he knows his stuff.
Yeah, so am I.
We'll say.
But that doesn't mean I should make rap.
He is a better rapper than most rappers in rap rock bands. He is a better rapper than Fred Durst. Can we
is
start there?
So astronomically low, babe. The bar is
I straight up
true.
disagree with that. I mean, no disrespect to Mike Shinoda, who seems like a nice man, and I'm not sure about Fred Durst personally. But
Sure.
I would rather listen to Fred Durst rap badly than Mike Shinoda rap quote unquote well.
That's an entirely valid viewpoint, and I hope to change your mind with my 4.5-hour Linkin Park missive.
Well, I love that you're doing it, and I love your show. Yasi, what are you in the midst of on the season of Bandsplain?
I am balls deep in Oasis. Actually, at Dry Bar the past 2 weeks, they had Hot Frosty on the TV, but I didn't watch because my nose was stuck in one or another Oasis book. So
You're rocking the Oasis tee
it's a
heartily
You
this
are.
morning.
that's right. I'm nothing if not doing multi-platform marketing.
Is Oasis dropping
For
this
my show.
week?
I don't know when does this come out? I don't know what
This
week.
is coming out today, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's how we roll.
Today, you guys, I did something really fun as a bonus episode where I had the drummer of the Arctic Monkeys, Matt Helders, come quiz me on British slang. It's kind of a bonus up for the holiday week.
Ooh,
Great
all
idea.
right.
Can't wait to
Thank
listen
you.
to it. Yasi and Rob, thank you so much. Really, I'm candidly just delightful. This was some of the most fun I've had on the pod recently. So thank you for doing this. And you can come back and talk about Better Man and your favorite Robbie Williams
Sonic.
songs, maybe at some point.
I'll be back
later
for
this year.
Moana 3.
Thanks to Yasi and Rob. Thanks to Jack Sanders. Thanks to producer Olivia Crerie filling in for Bobby on today's episode. Next week, we will dig into Steve McQueen's Blitz and our top 5 favorite World War II movies. We'll see you then.